Hello, this is Edith Neumaier, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. And today I need to do another video for my Facebook group called The Mystery of Adam. And so I am going to talk about whether the woman is made from the rib of the first human being. Of course, this first human being, many people call Adam. But make no mistake, when you really go to the original text, the word that was translated either man or Adam was originally ha-adam, the Hebrew word ha-adam, from which we got the word Adam. But translated, that word means human or human being or humankind. It's very important to understand that. And we see that in chapter 1 of Genesis and in chapter 2. The same word is being used in the original text. And when we look at this word rib, we have to understand that. And we also have to go to the original text when it comes to the rib, because both words were translated, well, at least the rib was translated incorrectly, because that should have been side, and we're going to look at that today. But when we look at a human being or Adam, when we look at the King James, that word was translated as either Adam or it was translated as man. Now we know in the English language, man can be either man as in male being, or it can be human being. But the original text is always human being. Unfortunately, this human being in many cultures, original ancient cultures, human being was always, or most of the time, applied only to the man. The woman was not considered to be a human being. Okay, so we have to understand that as well, because even during the time of Jesus and before, women were so degraded in the Hebrew culture and the Jewish culture that they were not considered human beings. And therefore we have now a lot of very confusion, lots of confusion regarding to not only the man or this word Adam or man. Now again, King James clearly translated it as man, but man as in humankind, not as in male. So when we look at that, when we look at especially chapter 1, which is an overall view of how God created the human being, okay, the human being. And many translation, newer translation, I believe the NIV does, they use now the word humankind. Not anymore man, but humankind. Sometimes they use Adam, but humankind. So God created humankind in his image, in his likeness, and he created them male and female. So you can see that specifically in chapter 1, God created humankind, male and female, not the man first. Now, of course, when we go to chapter 2, we see in more detail how God created created the human being. And again, it starts out with the same word, original word, ha-adam. And God created first the human being, ha-adam, from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostril the breath of life. That is, again, a human being. It does not anywhere say that this is a male being. Never. Now, in the English, we do use the pronoun he, but in the original text, that pronoun is not being used. And so the word male and female does not appear, or man and woman, it's actually man and woman, does not appear until God literally split the human being in half. And that's where this word rib comes in, because this word rib in the original text is sela. And sela does not translate anywhere else in the Bible. It appears many times in the Old Testament. So it's not just there, in Genesis 2, but it appears, and it is in Genesis 2:21. It appears in many other places. For instance, I have one example here in 1 Kings 6:34. That word appears, sela appears as well. And it's translated as two leaves of a door. So the side of the door, okay? There's also other places that I don't have the quotes right now, but if you do a study of it, you can find other places where sometimes that use is word as when the side of a mountain is described. So sela as the side of the mountain. So it's very important that we do understand that, because that has caused a lot of confusion, lots of confusion. Now, I came across, somebody was quoting this little poem by Matthew Henry, and you probably know this little poem, and it says, "The woman was made of a rib out of the side of Adam, not made out of his head to rule over him, not out of his feet to be trampled by him, but out of his side to be equal with him." And there it is used pretty nice. Under his arms to be protected, and near his heart to be loved. Now, I have nothing against this, little poem. It's pretty good. However, we start out right away that no, the woman was not from the rib. It is very obvious. And yes, just because she was made out of the rib does not mean she is equal. In the opposite, I think this word rib was purposely, falsely used to devalue the woman. I think that's a good word. It's to devalue. Again, I said in the Hebrew culture around Jesus' time and before Jesus' time, women were extremely devalued. Why? Because the Jews allowed the surrounding cultures to infiltrate into Judaism. And so that's when they started to devalue women. And they even considered them like the Greek. The Greek did not believe that a woman is a human being. And the Hebrews picked up on that from the culture, from the Greek culture. So, I mean, many of the Jews, they studied the different philosophers, Greek philosophers, Plato, Aristotle, and they believed this. And so they picked up. So when they translated, and I even believe in their translation called the Septuagint, which is the Old Testament translated in Greek, that's when they already made that mistake to translate this word into rib. Now there's and I'm looking at my book right now. This is my book, The Mystery of Adam. You can find it in Amazon. And I know Philo, if you're familiar with Philo, he is a philosopher, Jewish philosopher and historian. and he wrote in his commentary that, and I'm just trying to find it, I may not have it, but he knew very, very well that this word was only symbolic, that this is not the true word that was used. And I have it here in my book, but I just have not, I just do not come across it right now. But he clearly said it, that it's just symbolic. This rib is only symbolic. It's not what, the original text, and he should have known it. I mean, he was, the Greek philosopher around Jesus's time. He should have known better, and he did. Now, this Philo guy, he said some really strange things, so I'm not even going to quote him too much. But he talked quite a lot about this male and female, and he also is realizing that this first human being, this first Ha-Adam, or Adam, that was created first, was only like a type of human being. He was not the ultimate form of what would happen after the human being was split. So he's an interesting guy, and you can read about him in my book a little more, or you can just go and read the book, which is kind of lengthy, very lengthy. But going back to, again, this Hebrew word sela, there's a lady that I'm quoting, Jane Hansen, and her book is Fashion for Intimacy. She writes, this word is used many times in scripture as side or side chamber, and is generally an architectural term referring to the side of an object. So that's where I got this definition from. There is also a really, I thought it was interesting. I came across, and I don't know how, I came across this little booklet by a Caesarian monk, an English Caesarian monk from the 12th century. 12th century, mind you, okay? And I believe his little book is about friendship. And his name is Elred of Revaux. Elred of Revaux. He was very known during his time. And his little booklet is just a very teeny booklet. Like I said, it's on friendship. And here he writes how beautiful it is that the second human being, the second human being was taken from the side of the first, so that nature might teach that human beings are equal, and as it were, collateral, and that there is in human affairs neither a superior nor an inferior, a characteristic of true friendship. So here again he says, the second human was taken from the first human's side. So we have in the beginning one human being created by God truly as one. But God said, hey, it is not good that this man or this human being, remember English man is what? It can mean human being. And of course, the original text is human being. There's no doubt in my mind. So this first human being that God created said wasn't good because it was just one. And with one, you couldn't have fellowship. Of course, this human being had fellowship with God. So there was fellowship. But for some reason, God said it was not good that the human being would be alone. So he caused a sleep. on this first human being. And he literally took the side, not the rib. Now, people think about this, okay? Think about this. I mean, what can you do with a rib? What can you do with a rib? And then later on, he says, this is now bone and flesh anyways. Remember that? He said, this is now, where is that one at? Let's see, I don't have it in front of me. But in chapter 2, he says, this is now when after he split the woman and the man, he said, the man looked at the woman, said, or the man, right? Because at that point, we had now a man and a woman. And the words that were used is ish for man. That was the first time when that word ish and isha came up, man and woman. Before that, these two words did not come up. So, ish and isha is very important that we do not confuse that with this man as in ha-adam. So when we look at this rib, and he said afterwards, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. So the whole bones, all of our bones and our flesh were taken from that first human being. Now, when you take half of something and whatever is left behind, I have to drink something, sorry. It's not the same anymore, okay? So God takes all the ingredients of the woman, that's the side he took, all the ingredients from the woman, took it away from the ingredients of the man. He closed the side, okay, closed the side, and that's when the man was finished. Then he formed something with the woman. I don't know what, but he put a finishing touch to her. Now you read it again, that's what it says. And I could look it up so we don't get confused. Genesis 2. And then he closed it, and the woman was created. So here it says then in verse 23, the man said, and now of course I said we have what? Those actual word, man and woman. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. Now here we find the first time the word woman, okay, Isha, for she was taken out of man, and that is Ish. So we can see now that there's two new beings formed, Ish and Isha, or Isha, the woman, and Ish, the man. That is why a man leaves father and mother. Now, very clearly you need to look at that. This is why. What is the reason? This is why means there is a reason for what is going to follow. What is the reason for what is going to follow? The reason is that now we're having the human being Isha and Ish, woman and man, because we had the human being split in two. Therefore, that is why, therefore, many times it says therefore, a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Now, do you understand now why they were supposed to be uniting? Why they're supposed to becoming one again? Because they were one in the beginning, people. They were one in the beginning. So here we see these two words, woman and man. Now, very important. It's very important. Now, this is all before the fall, right? This is not after the fall. What happened after the fall? Well, after the fall, things changed drastically. There was no oneness or equality anymore. Okay? Because we just saw in this little thing that they were, and also, by this monk, they were created equal. Okay? Even this monk in the 1200, when women were still nothing, okay? Nothing. They were property of the husband. This monk said, so that nature might teach that human beings are equal, as it were collateral, and that there is in human affairs neither a superior nor an inferior, a characteristic of true friendship. This is what this monk, 12th century monk, said. Okay? Now, again, this is during a time where women were nothing whatsoever. No voting rights. They were still property of men. And he said that. And this is also why God said this. That is why a man leaves father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Now, we also know that Jesus quoted that. Okay? This is the purpose of marriage. This is the purpose. Now, during Jesus' time, like I said, the men totally forgot. Even the scribes, the Pharisees, they all forgot the true meaning, okay, of what this meant. They were using women as property. They were using women as property, okay? This inequality did not come into existence until after the fall. After the fall, the man took over the ruling. Why? Because it was the result of the fall. It wasn't the result of how God created them. God created them equal. But when they sinned, the first thing the man did, he took away that name Adam from the woman. We can see that in Genesis 5. Now, if I will look at that one, and if not, I'm going to go to the King James, because the King James says it even nicer. Okay, but let's look at this one. When God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them. And he named them mankind when they were created. See, I'm having here the NIV. So the NIV goes back to mankind. But the original text is what? The original text is Ha-Adam. So when we go to King James, which used that word, he goes back to the original word. And I have to find the King James right now. Where are you, King James? There it is, King James. So here we go. We're going to go to King James. This is what the King James says. Verse 2, male and female he created them and blessed them and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Do you get it now? Both of them, the male and the female, was called Adam. The NIV used the original word Ha-Adam to translate it as mankind, okay, or humankind. But the King James, he left the word Ha-Adam and put that word in there. The name was Ha-Adam, and both of their names was Ha-Adam, not just the male being. So what happened? Well, after the fall, that was the first thing that the man did, the male being did. He took away that name from the female. He took that name and kept it human. He kept the name human, Ha-Adam, for himself, and gave the woman a new name, Eve, mother of all living. Now, That was his first act of dominating the woman. That's because all throughout history, that's how the woman became less than human. And you can do that historical study. Well, guess what? You can also read my book, because I do some historical study in my book. Again, you can get it on Amazon. I go into many more details, and I look at the original text. There's many things in the original text that make it very clear. Like, for instance, a suitable helper. If you know that word, right? He says, I'm going to make God said, it's not good that the man is alone. I will make a suitable helper for the first human being, not the man. Okay, remember, he didn't say that to the man. He said that to the first human being. He said, I'm going to make a suitable helper for this human being. That is one now. And what was that suitable being? And you can look it up, because the original text is just so much clearer. But I'm coming to an end, and I'm going to just finish it with this thought. A suitable human being was made not just for the man, the male being, but it was also made for the female, because both needed a suitable helper. A suitable helper is not an assistant. A suitable helper, and if you again look at the original text, it is Azer. Okay, I have to think a little bit. It's Azer. And that word Azer is actually used for God being our helper, our Azer, in the Old Testament all the time. Okay, so this woman is not, or the man is not an inferior, but he is an equal. God created an equal for both of them, an Azer, a suitable Azer, a suitable helper, or a suitable partner. And people, that is so important to understand, because we are constantly bombarded with false translations and false interpretations. When I wrote my book, I came across so many false translations and false interpretations. I followed things in the New Testament, because the New Testament, they did the same thing in the New Testament in order to keep women subjugated. Now, who did that? Well, it was, of course, the Catholic Church that subjugated women. And see, in the beginning, Paul was trying very hard to give equal rights to women. And, you know, he had Priscilla working side by side with him, even writing his letters. And there's even some people even say that Priscilla actually wrote Hebrews. But again, we don't have proof. It's kind of speculation. But anyways, Paul gave them equal rights, but very soon a hierarchy started to become evident in the church again. And with starting this hierarchy and people being in charge, women again were put in their place. And that place was a subjugated place, and they received the subjugated role again. And that's pretty sad, but that is history. And if you want to know more about it, get my book, The Mystery of Adam, on Amazon. You have to put in The Mystery of Adam and my name, Edith Neumaier, or else I don't think it comes up. It maybe has changed, but in the past it didn't come up. So put in The Mystery of Adam and Edith Neumaier. I also have a website, and of course look at my playlist under my book, The Mystery of Adam, and you find a lot of videos that I've already made. anyways, I'm coming to an end. You know, as usual, what I always say at the end of my videos is let the Holy Spirit guide you. That's what I did when I started to write my book. I allowed the Holy Spirit to guide me, and this is how I discovered all these things.